can take a look at, and I told you. Okay, welcome Christopher Lowett to this live interview. Can you tell us what is going on in your life and why you decided to help people in a time like this?
In a time like this, why I decided to help people. Ever since I was a child, I've always questioned things in the school system and with the child services, family court system. I always felt like these people were evil. I always got a bad feeling from these people, teachers in elementary school, and I always questioned things like the methods of how they taught in class, and just they were very evil people. And I always, social workers would always try to come to me in elementary school and like kind of manipulate me and to give them information about things that was happening at home. I grew up in an abusive household. My father was an alcoholic, very abusive to my mother and to us, my brother and my sisters. So I was a very protective person towards females growing up. So I always had a soft spot for the unfortunate. Ever since I was a little kid, I got into fights on the school bus because I saw a girl get hit. I saw a girl get hit by a boy, and immediately I jumped and I grabbed the kid, and I got kicked out of school for that by the principal. And I remember this. I was in second or third grade, and the kid lied about me, and the principal believed him. The principal kept calling me a liar in the office, and my own mother didn't believe me. My own mother punished me for that, and I said, "Mom," I said, "she got hit like Daddy hit you." I was just defending her. My mother, ever since I was a little kid, my mother did not. It's like she always doubted me. And that's a narcissist. That's the definition of a narcissistic household. Like the protector of the mother always gets blamed for or always gets abused. And through my whole life, growing up, I was abused by my father. I was abused mentally, physically, emotionally, and the most happiest years of my life was when I was from 6 years old to 11. That's when my father didn't live at home with us. I didn't need him in my life. I knew what the monster that he was. I didn't think he was ever going to come back in my life and live in the house. And then one day, I was transferring from elementary school into middle school into sixth grade. And, my mother, I walked into my kitchen in Smithtown, Long Island, and I saw my sister. I heard them in the kitchen, and my mother said to my sister, "Your father's gonna come live back with us." And I remember I had a vision that my whole life flashed in front of me, and I was playing ice hockey at the time, at BMX racing. I was in wrestling. I played soccer. I played baseball. I was fluent in all these sports, and I just saw myself selling my hockey equipment, selling my BMX bikes, everything that I had a passion for stopped like that. I went into a complete depression, and he did come back into the house, and I felt like I was being punished. I felt like my mother she abandoned me and she betrayed me, and she put me in a very awkward, uncomfortable, scary situation. So every day I was being abused. My father was just a miserable bastard. He just wouldn't, he stopped drinking, but he was a dry drunk. And to this day, he's in denial. Like, we get along now, my father, but he's just in denial. He doesn't believe that he did all these things, which is sick. It's really sick. And my mother thinks she tried to do her best as a mother, but that's all bullshit too, because I love them and I forgive them. We're not perfect, but come on. Like, she had the signs when I was little. Me, my brother, and my sisters begged her, do not let my father back into the house. And my grandmother too. So it's like, when I was a child, I didn't have a lot of people close to me that were there for me, that would advocate for me. My own mother wouldn't even advocate for me. Check this out. So my mom had a best friend. Her name was Linda. I call her Aunt Linda. And Linda's husband was this guy, G, and they were both lawyers, civil rights attorneys. They loved me. Linda adored me. She was the one that would advocate for me, and she was the one that would be by my side. And I would cry to her, and I would tell her, "Aunt Linda, I did this because a girl was getting, please." And she was my voice box. And she died. She got into it. She died like right away. I remember my mother came into my bedroom. I was in third grade when she died, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed. And I was putting socks on. I remember this like it was yesterday. And she sits down next to me and she's like, "Aunt Linda passed away." And I was crushed. Like that was really close to her. And so at the same time, my grandmother started getting sick. That was my other best friend, was my grandma. She's another voice piece to me. She stuck up for me. She spoke broken English, Italian. cute, cutest old lady. Everyone loved her. Everyone that came to my house adored my grandmother. She was the most beautiful person. She sung opera. She had a beautiful voice. And I felt like God was punishing me. I'm like, why is he doing this to me? My grandma's sick. My dad's back in the house, and my Aunt Linda's dead. I'm like, what did I do wrong? I'm a good kid. Like, I don't understand. So I started cursing God. And I always had my faith in God. I always knew he was there. I always felt the presence. And a lot of times I would feel very dark, evil forces around me. And I'll get back. I'll fast forward to, but about that. I'll tell you about that later. But yeah, I started cursing God. I started, why would you do this to me, God? Like, why would you do this? I don't understand. Why am I being punished? Did I do something wrong in another life? I don't get it. Like, just everything that was happening. I used to tell my mother when I was a kid, I used to be like, Mom, I think we're cursed. I think we're cursed. I feel this dark force over us. Like, it's floating over our house. It follows me. And come to find out years later that I did find out that my Loeb name has a generational curse. My family is all descendant Freemasons. I'm a descendant Freemasons. And I just found this out 2 years ago. I had visions, and then I validated my visions. God would show me these things, dreams and images, very strong images. And then within the next 24 hours, sometimes like an hour later after I get this image, a physical occurrence would manifest, and it would validate what happened, what I saw, what God showed me. So this happened to me 3 years ago. I had a vision. I had a dream, but it was a vision. It wasn't. It was very intense, and I was in my spirit, and I was floating. I was in my grandmother's house in Smithtown, and 13 of my family members were sitting around the table that we eat for the holidays, and they were all in stone. They were all frozen in stone, and my grandmother was in stone. And I was floating above them in the spirit. And I noticed my grandmother's eyes kept going back. It's a very creepy dream. And she locked on my spirit. It's like her eyes locked on my spirit. And I freaked out. I woke up sweating, screaming, crying. Now mind you, this is 3 summers ago. This is 3 years ago. And 3 winters ago. And I was living in Queens and in Middle Village. And I got up right away. I went to my laptop. I didn't know what the vision meant. I didn't know what it meant. So I Googled it. Something told me to go on Google, and I typed in 12 disciples Loeb. I don't know why I typed that in. That thought that was coming to me. Nothing came up. I typed in, maybe it was 13 demons. I don't know. I saw that came to my head. I typed in 13 demons Loeb. Guess what pops up? The first thing that pops up is Rabbi Loeb. All right. Rabbi Loeb was a mystic Kabbalah Jew back in the 1500s. And he practiced mysticism. Mysticism is like magic. They mess around with dark energy, and like they summon demons, and so I didn't know this. I had no idea about this. And then when I started reading about Rabbi Loeb, I started to notice that what he did, it matched up to my bloodline, and it matched up to my family history. And so when I started reading, down, it said that Rabbi Loeb, he gave life to what they call the Golem of Prague. If you go and you look up on the internet, the Golem of Prague, this is where they got the movie Frankenstein from. The movie Frankenstein was based on a myth of the Golem of Prague, but it's not a myth. It really happened. So this guy, Rabbi Loeb, they called him the anointed one of his village. All right. He was a very holy man, very righteous man, and his village was under attack. There was a war about to wage, and he was trying to protect his people. So he was getting visions in his dreams of an angel, a fallen angel. I believe it was a demon, was giving him formulas and visions on how to create life. And so Rabbi Loeb would wake up and he would write these formulas down, and he would write on how to give life to create life. And he had to, in order to give life to this demon, to this golem, you had to have the person, the demon that's giving you the formula has to be the key to activate it. So he was summoning this demon to protect his people. So he did, in fact, but because he did that, you're not supposed to give life. This is why you know, the world, a lot of Christian people, leaders are against cloning. It's blasphemy. That's supposed to be left in the hands of God. We're not supposed to be in control of that technology. So this demon gave him these formulas. He took down the formulas. He did this magic. He put everything into a book. He gave life to this golem. The golem did do his duty to protect the village, and then when he was done, they put him asleep inside the temple walls, and they slabbed up the walls, right? Because he did that, this is where 13 demons comes in. He cursed the Loeb family name generation to generation with 13 very powerful high ranking demons. This was like, I'm getting chills right now talking about this, because it says in my research about him, he gave that book to the Germans. I'm German, okay? But my ancestors were obviously Jewish. I find that. I mean, all our ancestors are Jewish. You know, from the, you know, we all come from Jews. So, but I had a direct bloodline to him. So he gave this book to the Germans, and in the 1600s, the Germans created what they call Freemasons. The group called the are you familiar with the Freemasons? All right, that's where the Illuminati came from. The Illuminati branched off the Freemasons. It's a secret society. Now Freemasons, they take their methods. They practice dark. They're an occult. They do sacrifices. 33rd degree Masons. They do rituals. They do human sacrifices to give them power. They summon demons to give them knowledge, to give them tech. That's where we get a lot of our technology from. I know it sounds crazy, but if you do your research on this and you go back, and many scholars have documented this. So he cursed the Loeb name. So he gave the book to the Germans. I'm German. And then I also, all these things kept happening to me, these visions, these experiences, these spiritual experiences that were happening to me almost every other day when I was living in Queens for the last 3 years. And so I'm like, yo, what is God trying to tell me? What is he telling? And I always felt like I'm going to see end times. Ever since I was a kid, I said, Mom, we're going to be a part of end times. We're going to see at the end time the apocalypse. And everything he's been showing me over the years is it's validation. So 3 years ago, when all this was happening, I kept praying. It was Christmas morning, I remember. I kept praying for God to give me a vision, to give me a sign. I was crying. I was on my floor in my bedroom. It was Christmas morning. I had all this money. I was hooked on drugs. My brother was in the other room. I'm like, God, what is my purpose? Like, show me, give me a sign. And I just let go. I started just crying, letting it all out. And God came to me, and he spoke to my heart. He spoke to me, and I got hit with this overwhelming sense of peace and joy. And I'm like, this is why I'm alone. This is why he has me in this situation. I said he wanted me to be alone. He needed me to go through all this pain and suffering for all these years because he wanted to find me, to come back home. He wanted me to reach him out and start praising his name again. And then I'm getting chills right now. So I walk out the room and I'm laughing. I'm smiling. I'm like, my brother's crying in the other room. And I'm like, yo, Frank, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, bro. I love you. I know why we're like this. I know why we're strong. We're warriors. So now I asked him for a sign. He gave me that feeling. I felt the presence of God with me. And then my phone, I had an iPhone. It was on my kitchen counter in my apartment. And my phone starts going, a light. My phone, the flashlight in the back of it went off. It was on. My screen turned a bright white. And like it started vibrating. I didn't have it set to vibration. It was on silent. I'm like, and the phone was like jumping off the table. I kid you not. And it was about to fall off the table. And I'm just staring at it like stuck. I'm like, I had a feeling like he was talking to me right now. I pick up the phone. I kid you not. But the phone is possessed. I swear it was possessed by the Holy Spirit. This is what I believe was possessed by the Holy Spirit. It opens up by itself. It goes to the Facebook a friend request column that I had. Now I knew in my friend request box I had multiple people that friend requested me, but I didn't accept any of them. It only showed one friend request. This is gonna blow your mind. It only showed one friend request. The whole screen was dedicated to one person. This guy's name is Joseph Emery. He's from Romania. I have no idea who this guy is. I don't click anything. I kid you not. I'm holding the phone in my hand, and it clicked on it itself. It clicked on his name. I saw his name highlight. It jumped to his page, right? And then it started throwing all his videos that he had at me. It started playing them. It started playing pictures of friends that he had. It started showing me their pictures of the Philippines. It was showing me pictures of Hong Kong and China. It was showing me the picture of these spirits on top of tech buildings in China and Hong Kong. And then I'm like, it was spitting out, it was showing scriptures, Romans. It was showing me Ephesians 6, 10, 18, 10, 18 is my birthday. That's the spiritual warfare prayer. Putting on the full armor of God, that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against principalities, against dark forces in heavenly realms, against these cosmic powers, against the devil and his army. That's literal. And that came to life to me. And I felt God in my veins. I felt the words come to life in my veins. And then, so now all these scriptures, all these pictures, that doesn't happen to you. When you go on when you click a friend request, you got to go to someone's page. You got to go through their pictures. You got to go and see what's on their page. It just doesn't start possessing and start throwing all this stuff out at the phone at you. I had chills. Tears started coming out of my eyes, and I wasn't doing any of this. It was just this overwhelming energy, this heavenly, this energy was just inside of me. And then, oh yeah, I got you. So this energy was inside of me, right?
It's part of the awakening. You did the awakening.
I had an awakening. Yes, it was a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I know. I went through the same thing.
Yeah, I saw you smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was great. It was a huge experience. So the last thing that popped up on this guy's that came out that played itself was this Voice of God was the title of it. The Philippines Voice of God by a prophet. Her name's Cindy Jacobs. Look her up. She's a world-renowned prophet. All her prophecies have come true. And this video, it was her voice. I felt I just posted it on my TikTok. I made like 5 videos of that video, and you gotta watch it. It makes me cry. It makes me get pumped up. It gives me chills every time. So she was prophesizing about the Philippines, and she kept saying that God was speaking through her and was saying there's going to be a revolution of righteousness. God is coming with his glory. There's going to be anointing put upon the nations that the world has never seen before. The buildings in Hong Kong are going to shake. The guerrilla leaders, he's going to visit the guerrilla leaders in the Middle East. He's going to visit the blood of the martyrs are going to cry out. Philippines, I'm not looking away. You are the apple of my eye. So this was very powerful. So I stood there by the edge of my bed. My eyes were closed. I was looking up at like something was possessing me to do this. It was a good possess. I'm looking up at the ceiling, and I swear I could see heaven through my eyelids. My eyes were closed, and I could see heaven. It was this white, just this light, and all these dark other shadows were coming out of me and being pulled into heaven, like it was magnetic. And that these were there were dark forces inside of me coming out. No, I don't know, bro. I'm on a interview. So they this was a crazy experience. So ever since that day, God was with me. I knew my purpose. I knew that all the suffering I've been through was not in vain. I knew he showed me my mission. He showed me my purpose. He showed me how his right hand has literally, I've been in the comfort of his right hand my entire life. And I just didn't know. I was too young-minded. I didn't understand why these things happen in life. I didn't understand and grasp what spiritual warfare meant. I didn't understand when it said in the Bible that we conquer, our fight is not carnal. It's of against principalities and high places. In that moment, I understood what all that meant. It was a premonition. It was an awakening. It was the greatest experience that has ever happened to me. So, but before this, like that summer before this, I had another spiritual awakening. He took me to, I kid you not, he took me to hell. I've been to hell. He took me into that realm. he took me to a couple different levels of hell, and I felt how real that feels. I felt the souls burning, the gnashing of the teeth. I felt the skin rip. I felt the souls in hell. They were a part of me, and I felt that pain, that absence of God. I felt that, and I was scared. There's no feeling in the world that's scary. There's no physical feeling that can compare to going to hell. I'm like, yo, I have to get right. I have to get right with my life. I'm like, I'm not gonna die like this. I'm not going to hell. So when in the course of my drug addiction, when I moved to Florida to try and fix my life up, but I got hooked up with some pretty bad people, and I was up for like 9 days straight, and I could not go to sleep, and I kept having blackouts, like in and out. But I could not sleep. And this guy that I met was driving my car, and I started like speaking different languages. I don't remember. I would go into a blackout, and I don't remember what I was doing, because I had no control of my movements, my body functions. It was like someone had a remote control and was pressing buttons and controlling me. So he said, the kid that was with me, he was like, listen, he's like, I gotta drop you off somewhere. He's like, he's like, you're scaring me. This kid was 6'6" with a gun. He had a gun. He's like, you're scaring me. So he picked up his girlfriend, started driving around. I started scaring her. He said I started speaking like in tongues, and like the demonic tongues. And he's like, bro, you were speaking Spanish. He's like, the voices that were coming out of you was not human. Like, he's like, dude, he's like, your voice was changing. Like, it's not you. He's like, the look in your eyes was, he's like, bro, you look like a demon. You look like a devil. I'm like, so we meet up with my friend Danielle, and she gets my car and she starts flipping out on them. She's making a huge scene, and she puts her pocketbook in my car. And I'm very paranoid. Mind you, I've been up for 9 days. I can't go to sleep. I'm partying hard. And so I kept telling her, I'm like, listen, you got to drive my car. I can't drive. I kept going in and out of blackouts. I had no control of my body function. So I thought she was the FBI. I thought she was setting me up. I'm thinking all these crazy things. I'm like, yo, if you don't get in the car right now, I'm jumping in my car and I'm leaving. So I could not drive. I could not drive for 2 seconds. I would have crashed. I get in my car, and that's the last thing I remember was me jumping in the car, and that was it. So I wake up, right? I wake up standing outside my car, my shirt off, right? I'm scared to death. I have no idea how I got there. I'm looking at my car. I'm staring at myself in my driver's side window, my reflection. And I'm like, and put my hands to my face, and I'm like, I look at myself, and I'm like, how did I get here? And I look to the right of me, and there's cops, and there's sheriffs, there's deputies, and Broward County deputies, and there's EMT. They have their hands on their guns, and they're like, sir, calm down, calm down. I'm like, oh no, I thought I killed somebody. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? They're like, sir, calm down. You didn't do nothing. You didn't hurt anybody. I'm like, all right, what happened? They're like, we got a phone call. Your friend called us and said you couldn't drive, you were in bad shape. I said, who drove my car? I asked him where I was. I was 4 towns over from where I started. Okay? I drove 45 minutes in a blackout. I had no recollection of driving. I said, but my car, Diana, was parked perfect in the parking space. I'm like, who drove my car? They said, sir, you did. You were by yourself when we found you. I'm getting chills right now. And so I'm like, nah, so I just cried to them. I'm like, I just want to go to sleep. Put me to sleep. Put me to sleep. I could not sleep. So they put me in handcuffs for their safety and my safety, and they put me in the ambulance, and they had to shoot me 2 times with a tranquilizer. I finally went to sleep. I woke up the next day in the hospital, and I kept choking on my tongue. I almost died. I kept choking on my tongue. I had a reaction, and this isn't the first time this has happened, but my tongue went in the back of my throat. They put tubes down up my nose so I could breathe. And it's like I lost all control of my muscles. Like it felt like someone was controlling my body. And I could not relax my jaw. My jaw was locked. My tongue was in the back of my throat. And so the next, like 2 days later, I'm trying to remember what happened in those 45 minutes. I'm like, I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, I couldn't drive. I couldn't drive 2 seconds. I blacked out. I woke up standing outside of my car. How was I even standing? I woke up to that. Like, so I'm beating myself up. I'm really trying to remember what happened in those 45 minutes, because that was totally wiped from my memory, those 45 minutes. So that night I go out and I meet this Haitian guy, and I met him through a friend of mine, and he comes up to me out of nowhere and he says, God sent me here to tell you this. He's like, I need not because I want not. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, everything you see right here, it's not real. He's like, you're in a spiritual simulation, he said to me. And I'm like, he caught me because that's what I've been battling with. That's what I've been really thinking. I think everything in my life was so surreal. It just didn't seem real. It seemed like it was like a movie already playing itself out in my life. And that's what they say in the spiritual world. Things happen in the spiritual world first, and then they happen in the physical. So our events have already happened. God has already seen them. And then they happen in the physical world. So God knows everything. He's the Almighty, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. So God was showing me something. He brought this Haitian guy to me, and I was hooked with this guy all night. We had a good chemistry. He was just prophesizing to me. And he brought me to his cousin, and we went to another spot. We went to a pool hall in the morning. I met his cousin, and his cousin stops. And his cousin's a spiritual doctor. And he's another Haitian that's into that spirit. That I don't want to say voodoo, but so I walk in and he stops and he puts his hands like this over me, like this. And he's like, you're protected. He's like, you have a blue light and a white. He's like, God's with you, he says. He's like, you're protected. I'm like, wow, this has been happening to me all the time now. People are telling me, like, clairvoyants are coming up to me in the parking lot and telling me God's with me. I'm like, all right, this is freaking me out. So my friend Danielle, once again, I'm in no shape to drive. So she gets an Uber and she comes and she picks me up. And I'm in the passenger seat and I'm just lost. I'm like, Danielle, what happened the other day in those 45 minutes? I'm like, I was in no condition to drive. And she's like, I don't know, that's crazy. I'm trying to, she's like, don't think about it too much. I'm like, no, something happened to me. I'm like, something happened to me in those 45 minutes. I was taken somewhere. I could feel it. I was taken somewhere. God took me. So we're driving and I'm like, Danielle, I don't think I could live without drugs. I'm like, I'm really depressed when I don't have it. I'm like, I'm very uncomfortable. It calms my thoughts, my racing thoughts. And I've been dealing with this my whole life, but it was spiritual what I was dealing with. And through prayer, I've been able to control that. But so we're driving and I'm really upset. I'm really down. And she goes to get a cup of coffee. She pulls up the Starbucks parking lot. She asked me what I want. I'm like, whatever. I didn't care. And she closes the door, my driver's side door. And as soon as she closed the door, boom, I got hit with these visions, with these moments that happened to me. And I could only match them to the 45 minutes. And I'm like, this had to have happened in those 45 minutes. I'm like, God took me. And when he took me, he showed me I was out of my body. I was in my spirit, but I was being controlled. My whole body was being squeezed. Like every molecule of my existence, my physical, it was like tingly, really hard, and I was being squeezed. Like someone had a remote control and was pushing buttons again. And I'm going through this, and I felt the noise in my body. It was like, and I felt like I was being sucked through a hole that I couldn't fit in my body. And I was like, what's happening to me? And I was freaking out. And I was really scared. And I'm like, something controlled me that I couldn't move my mouth. I couldn't speak. Everything was controlled. And when I let go, I said, God, I just said, God. And that fear went from fear. He shot me through different levels of life that I lived, whether they were different lives or different, maybe in heaven that I lived. He showed me everything. And I was going through all these levels of life in one moment. And this has happened. I went through all this in like 1 second. I saw all this. And in the spiritual world, there's no such thing as time. Time does not exist. God is he's with everything. He's forward, behind, he's left, he's right. He's in the beginning and the end. He showed me in that moment that I was with him when he first created us. He showed me, this is what I felt, this is the realest thing I've ever experienced in my life. He showed me that I'm in him and he's in me. And we hear people say that all the time. I know Jesus said it. I am in you and you are in me. I am in him and he is in me.
That's how
That made I finally understood what that felt like. And I was connected to everything in the universe at that moment. I was connected to the fish, to the sharks in the ocean. I was connected to every person, every tree, everything that's of existence. I was connected to the stars. I was connected to everything in the galaxies. He showed me that. And then he showed me the meaning of life. But the physical mind, I still try to remember when that happened. And the physical mind just does not comprehend the meaning of life. That's why they say when you understand life, you'll die, you'll be dead. Because when you go into your spiritual mind, it makes sense. That's why our spiritual body is stronger. The spiritual realm is stronger, is more real than the physical world. Because the spirit world became first before the physical realm. So we're originally spirits from heaven. But then, you have these dark forces that try to take us away from that. They try to deceive us. They put circumstances in our life. And then finally, when that happened, the last thing God showed me, I turned into like an amber. My body went away, my physical body. He shot me through the sky, through the stars, through the galaxies, and I ended up floating in a space of time, right? And I was an orb of light. I saw it was like an amber, like colors that you can't fathom in the physical. And I was floating right here. He was floating like a triangle. He was floating like there was another orb floating right there, and then there was another orb. There was 3 orbs of us. I was one orb. There was another orb. I was another orb, and we were all in unison. And that was heaven. That was the throne of God. And I felt it, and I understood everything about the world, and it made perfect sense. And I was back home. This is not home. This world is not home. Father is our true parent. The God is our true parent. Our parents were just vessels that our spirit manifested in. As soon as we're done with this, Chris, I got you. So yeah, so I was touched. As soon as that happened, I tears started coming out of my face. As soon as Danielle came back to the car, I'm like, Danielle, it was real. It was real. It really happened. She's like, what are you talking about? She thought I was losing it. I'm like, God came to me. He took me to heaven. I'm like, yeah, I saw heaven. She's like, what? And then we started talking, and then she started telling me a similar experience that she had and that her friend back in Indiana had. And she's like, Chris, the same exact thing you're saying right now, you sound just like my best friend. He went through the same thing. And I was like, yo, I could see how powerful we are in the spirit. We can move mountains, literally. Like, none of this is figurative. None of this is metaphorical. Like, this is real. He's showing me that we have this ultimate power inside of us. So we really, truly have the kingdom of heaven inside of us. So, and it's just, so, it's always been instilled in me, in my DNA, in my coding, in my spirit, that I was sent here to expose the evil and to save souls. In his name, I take no credit for anything that I've accomplished in my life when it comes to exposing, judicial corruption. I single-handedly took down the district attorney's office of Suffolk County. From the head down, I took down the Suffolk County police chief. These are very evil people. I did it by myself. But it wasn't me that did it. It was God. He was just using me. It was like the David and Goliath scenario. Same thing. God loves using the underdog. He loves using the outcast to take down the high, God-forsaken leader, Mm-hmm. So he always does that. It's biblical. It's all through the Bible. All the prophets have wrote this down, and listen, in the end time, he's going to use, it says in the Bible that Archangel Michael is going to be the one to defeat Lucifer and bring Lucifer to be judged, right? Everyone thinks that Archangel Michael is like the head angel. He's not. Cherubs, I believe it's cherubs or cherubim are the highest angels, right? God created Lucifer before he created any other thing, right? Yeah. God is just as powerful, not as he has the same component as God. So he knows how to deceive people. He knows exactly what God's thinking. But in the end, God's letting him have his time right now. But we all know how this works out at the end. So Michael, the archangel, is actually one of the lowest forms of angels. He's the highest ranking angel of his. Okay. So he used Michael, the lowest level angel, to defeat the highest breaking angel Lucifer. This is the same thing. He used me, I was a drug addict. People called me a junkie. They called me a liar, but they did not understand that what they underestimated was God was with me the whole entire time. They did not see that the power of the God who created this universe was inside of me, that the evil one cannot stand against. And because I kept my faith in God, because I listened to him and I followed where he wanted me to go, I was able to decapitate these evil scorpions and serpents by my faith. My faith is what did it. Never in a moment that I ever take credit or say, this is Chris Loeb doing this. No, this is God doing this. Nothing about what's happening right now was not divine. It was a divine intervention. Before I did what I did with the police chief, when I broke into his car and took that duffel bag and found those DVDs, God showed me in a vision 3 days before that. I picked up the newspaper. I never read the newspaper, and I look at it and I see on the front page was these headshots of all these girls, and it said Gilgo girls, and I'm like, what is this? And it says Long Island serial killer. So I start reading it, and right there, as I'm reading it, I can just feel like this sorrow over me, like this in my soul. And I once again, I got in the vision. I'm like, cops did this. I'm like, police did this. I'm like, I know it. I can see it. So I went into the kitchen. My mother was cooking. She was cooking something in the crock pot. And I went up to her, and I opened up the paper, and I said, Mom, I know cops did this. I know police officials did this. She's like, how do you know, Christopher? I'm like, I just know. And I'm like, Mom, I'm going to be the one to expose all this. I said those exact words to my mother in that moment. You can ask my mom. She'll tell you that's what happened. 3 days later, I break into his truck. Before I broke into his truck, I was doing the wrong thing back then. I was on drugs. I was doing things to support my habit. I'm not ashamed of that anymore. That's I had to go through all that to get to where I am now and to overcome that. But when I was doing that, I was with somebody else. He was driving, and I drove past his house, and this police chief lived in my neighborhood, and I knew who he was, but I didn't know it was his house. And when we drove by, I saw this light over the house. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I saw a light over the house, like an aura, like a golden bright light. And I'm like, stop the truck. I went to the house. I went into the driveway, and I opened. His car was opened. It was unlocked. I opened the car. I looked around. I'm like, I saw. He had a badge on the thing. I'm like, oh, this is a cop. This is a cop. And he had a duffel bag. He had evidence sealed in an evidence bag. He had drugs, in it. But then he also had DVDs in it. But he also had a modem in the back of the truck. It was a government official vehicle. It was a GMC Yukon. But he had this modem in the. I think it was a Stinger. And at the time I didn't know that. But he also had something else, like a computer modem next to it. And then next to that, he had like a lock box. And it was a glass box, and there was a hole in it, and I could stick my finger in it, and there was something inside of it. It felt like what it was. It was information. So I'm not gonna get into. I don't want to say. I can't say that right now, but that's my insurance policy. But he had DVDs in his duffel bag. When I went back to the house, and I was filtering. I'm like, something was telling me that something's wrong with this cop. So I went back to my house. I took the duffel bag. I opened it up, and there's sex toys in the duffel bag. This guy was a pervert. He had anal bead, a butt plug, lubricant in a Ziploc bag. So he had 5 DVDs in the duffel bag. I take one of the DVDs out that was blank. He had really perverted shit, like guys, girls strapped with dildos, banging guys on the pictures of the DVD. But there was one DVD that was blank, and I'm like, all right, let me put this one in. And I saw a girl being tortured. I saw a girl with her tied up, and she was being tortured. My co-defendant started freaking out, and I'm like, yo, he's like, put it back. You don't know what you just did. This is bad. He's freaking out. And I'm like, I'm not bringing this back, bro. I'm like, we're gonna get this guy. Yo, this is real. So I was gonna go back and I hid the DVDs. I'm like, I'm gonna bring this to the authorities. I'm gonna bring this. I didn't trust anybody. I was gonna hold on to it until I felt what to do with it, who to bring it to, because I felt like everyone was involved. That's just the feeling I got. Sure enough, 3 hours later, my house gets swarmed. I noticed. I look out my bedroom window and I saw unmarked cars at the end of my driveway. So, I told my co-defendant, I'm like, don't let them in. I'm like, the cops are here. I'm like, I'm leaving. I ran out the back door, and one of the detectives saw me run. They had me blocked off. They had my black back door blocked off. They had the block behind my house through the woods blocked off. They were going heavy. Why are you going that hard for some DVDs? Why are you breaking the law without a warrant to come for a petty crime I committed to retrieve your belongings? Why does the chief of police come to the suspect's house? He's not supposed to be involved in that. He's the chief of the department. So he's at my house, and I was a mile, about a half a mile away from my house in the woods. And I hid and I put the leaves on top of me, and the detectives ran back and forth behind me. And, they came, and I heard the walkie-talkies. That shit gives me chills to this. I hate that sound. And I hear them, they're like, we found them. I'm like, I just stayed there. I surrendered. They had their guns out. So they picked me up. They dragged me through the woods. They were hitting me in the process of my ribs, whatever. And then they brought me into the backyard of my house. Now, if I'm under arrest, you're supposed to bring me to the precinct. This is what they claim they came there for. They said they came there with the probation officer to arrest me for a violation. That was not true at all. And if that was the case, you had me in custody. You don't bring me back into the house. You take me straight to the police car, and you book me at the precinct. They took me back into the house because they were already in my house, detectives, with no warrant. And they were searching my house, and they kept saying, where's the fucking duffel bag? The lieutenant came to me, and he was like, where's the fucking duffel bag? Where's the duffel bag? I don't know what you're talking about. And I got hit. I was in my den in my mother's house, and I was on the couch, my hands behind my back, and they started hitting me. And I started screaming. I'm yelling for my mother to come so she can witness it. And my co-defendant gives them the duffel bag, but I hid the DVDs somewhere else. They eventually, 3 hours later, they find the DVDs, but they don't know what I have. So they've been trying to get the other information that I have from me, but I've been sending them on wild goose chases for the last 8 years. So that they tap my phone, they follow me, they send informants at me. They tried to set me up for a murder for hire, the district attorney, and it didn't go through. They tried to send someone to give me a hot shot of heroin. That never happened. God has literally been with me, protecting me. It's like my God instinct always goes off when something's wrong. And so he comes to my house. He gets the DVDs. I'm at the precinct. They got me chained to the floor, and I'm handcuffed to the floor. Like, they're supposed to give you slack, like put a chain to the handcuffs and give you slack. Well, you put the handcuffs to your waist. That didn't happen in this case. I was handcuffed to the floor with just the handcuffs and the ring in the floor. So I was hunched over, and for like 10 hours. And they start beating the crap out of me, right? And, first it started Detective Cotting. Detective Niels comes in. He's questioning me. I don't know nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. I have nothing to say to you. I want my lawyer. I asked for my lawyer like 1,000 times. I was not getting an attorney. They were beating the shit out of me. So another detective came. His name was Detective Cottingham. They're trying to get information on me. Then they try sweet talking me and be like, we want to help you. What was in that duffel bag? If it's child pornography, we got to report it. I'm like, I'm not saying anything. I'm like, you guys are probably in on it, and you're probably fucking sick pedophiles too. So I wasn't saying anything, and then, Detective Lito comes in. He's a monster, this guy. He's a really bad person, this guy. He lost his job, and I think he's going to jail because of this. And another guy lost his job, another detective, his name's Bombas, Kenneth Bombas. He got booted from the department. He came in. Detective Kelly came in, and James Burke. And then there was another officer that came in, a detective that was taking turns beating me up while I was chained to the floor. Detective Lito choked me out till I passed out. He said he was going to arrest and rape my mother. Now imagine how I must feel after everything that I've been through, and I'm handcuffed defenseless to a fucking floor, and you're gonna tell me you're gonna go fucking rape my 60-something-year-old mother? Yo, I was spitting out anything I could do, but I passed out. He choked me till I passed out, and then when I came to, the police Chief Burke comes in the room and orders everybody out. He comes in, he unbuttons his fucking white collar shirt. He's like, you want to steal from me, motherfucker? And he's a pussy. He starts taking shots at me, hitting me in the head, and I'm spitting on him. And I'm like, I saw what was in you. I saw what you had. He said, no one's gonna believe you. He's like, you're just a junkie. He's like, I'm a high-ranking police chief of the Suffolk County Police Department. No one's gonna fucking believe you. He's like, you're dead. He's like, you're gonna get a hot shot of heroin. This is all proven. I approved all this. Mm-hmm. I spit on him. I called him a pedophile. But when you look at the court reports, the FBI said that I said the words pervert. I didn't. I said the words pedophile. Mm-hmm. So, he never thought in a million years that I'd be the one. They're still banging their head against the wall. That I would be the one chosen to take down one of the strongest, most corrupt police departments in the United States of America. Suffolk County is its own country. Yes, it's a county inside Long Island, but the way they operate is like their own providence. They're their own people. They don't have another county. They have Nassau County, then Suffolk County is the end. They have no one on the other side looking over them to hold them accountable. So, Tom Spoda was the district attorney. Tom Spoda, James Burke was Tom Spoda's protege. Now I'm gonna break down the history of James Burke and Thomas Spoda. Thomas Spoda was a very corrupt, evil district attorney that reigned that office and the power of that county for the last 30 years. All right, politicians, righteous people that have been trying to get him out because they know the dirt they were doing would either lose their jobs, they would get framed with charges and put away. Anyone that opposed him, he ruined their life. Him and James Burke was his henchman. James Burke controlled all the other henchmen. So whenever Tom Spoda needed dirt done, he called on his little boy, James Burke. When James Burke was 14 years old, there was a murder of this young boy, John Pius, in my town. We all went to the same town. We all went to the same schools, the same elementary schools. And my mother used to tell me stories about this when I was a kid, whenever we would pass the elementary school in Smithtown. And she would tell me, she's like, a boy was murdered back here. They shoved rocks down his throat to kill him. And then come to find out, 20 years later, I'm the one that breaks into the car of this guy that was involved when he was 14 years old in the murder of John Pius. So James Burke was the head of his little gang that he had when he was a teenager, when he was 14. He had this little crew that they sell pot and petty drugs and stuff, but they were vicious. And they brought this kid. There was a weed sale. He owed money or something, or he told on them, or whatever the situation was. They brought him into the woods, and they beat him up and they put rocks down his throat and killed him. So James Burke is the killer. I know that James Burke was the orchestrator of this. He sees an opportunity. He's very smart, James Burke. He sees an opportunity granted to him by Thomas Spoda, uses him as the star witness in the murder against John Pius. James Burke tells on his two other friends that were with him, and they said they did it. That wasn't the case. James Burke was the orchestrator of this. When James Burke got away with this, and he knew that he could get away with murder, he felt that taste of power. And you know what he used to tell his classmates after that? When I get older, I'm going to be a cop. Why? Because I can commit crimes and get away with it, because I have a gun and a badge. And that's exactly the prophecy. That's exactly the destiny that he fulfilled. So that was a huge case for Thomas Spoda at that time. Tom Spoda was assistant district attorney in Suffolk County. He was in homicide unit. And So he won that case, and then he had another case, Thomas Spoda, that made him famous. It was the Marty Tankliff case. This is known all the Marty Tankliff case is known all over the country. So Marty Tankliff was charged with murdering his two parents at the time. He was a young boy. He was like 16 years old, and Tom Spoda framed this poor boy. This poor kid was framed. He just witnessed his two parents get murdered. Was in shock. Was just lost his only two people that were important to him in life, and they charged him with the murder of his parents. Imagine having to sit through a trial and be accused of murdering the people that brought you in. That I think they were his adopted parents, but whatever, that raised you, that loved you, that catered to you, and you're trying to prove your innocence. I'm going to trial. I didn't murder my parents. They framed this little kid because the people that murdered his parents were really bad people connected to Spoda, and his father was this big businessman, and it was a deal. I think the detective's name was Detective McCready, I think. But he lied on the stand. He went down years later for lying on the stand. This is how one of the ways that this is how Marty Tankliff, 20 years later doing prison, he spent his whole life in jail, finally gets exonerated. And the private investigator was oh man, he's a friend of mine. Whatever. This you got to look it up. The private investigator. He wrote a book about this. I can't. I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't know why I can't think of his name. But this guy did his work. He sacrificed his marriage because of it. James Burke threatened this private investigator, and he was helping Marty. He helped Marty, but he took the case, I believe, for like $5,000, maybe nothing, for peanuts. And he wound up getting the information and getting the stuff. He brought it to an attorney. The attorney's name was Bruce Barquette. He happened to be my attorney that I used for a lawsuit against Suffolk County. I'm not going to get into that with Bruce Barquette. All I'm going to say is that I used him to file a motion, and we won. But I did most of the work and the suffering. He did the legal work to it. It was a great motion that we filed. It was a great motion that his firm filed. But I'm not going to get into the corruption in that office right now. But so this private investigator, he gets this information, and they present it in court, and they have another trial. And Marty Tankliff finally he wins. They filed the fourth. He lost the second trial with you. I think he lost the second trial, and they filed the 440 motion to vacate. They filed the motion, and they won. And actually, the assistant district attorney that was on the case when they appealed it, he's dead right now. They say he died while going on his swim, and they found him face down in the water. And it's giving me chills right now because this lawyer came to visit me when I was in the feds. He wanted to take me from my lawyer, from Bruce Barquette. He didn't like Bruce Barquette because he lost to him at this trial, at this motion. He played golf with Bruce and then leaked that information to the media, and it was all over the media that Bruce is golfing with the defense, with the prosecution, trying to throw dirt on him. But and he said to Bruce, is like, why would you say that? He's like, you shouldn't be playing golf with the prosecution. A real dickhead move. Oh, his name was Lado. It's just funny. It's not the detective that choked me out. His name was Lito. But yeah, the lawyer's name was Lado on that case. I didn't even know he died until like a year ago. They found him dead face down in the water by his house in Babylon. Now, Babylon wasn't in Babylon, was from Babylon, but anyway, he winds up dead. I know he didn't die from swimming. They murdered him. I know he was murdered because he was about to turn evidence to the federal government because he got picked up on something, and they knew he was going to tell and cooperate. He winds up dead. The media doesn't cover this. They talk about it, a little article in the paper, prominent Suffolk County attorney dead from swim. Bullshit. I didn't know about it. I should have known about it. That's how quiet they kept this. And I'm like, yo, this guy died? I'm like, wow. And I know what they're capable of. They tried to kill me several times. I almost lost my leg because they sent the police canine on me and retaliated against me after all this. And so these people are very evil people. So, oh, he did. That's what I was talking about. Thomas Spoda, excuse me. Thomas Spoda used James Burke. So he rose James Burke to the ranks. James Burke, when he gets older, Thomas Spoda got him a job as a rookie cop in Queens. From Queens, from New York City, he went to Suffolk County, the first precinct in Amityville. He rises up to sergeant and lieutenant, right? He has a prostitution ring, James Burke, while he's a cop.
Mm-hmm.
This goes unfounded. Internal Affairs brings it up, but it goes swept under the rug. He loses his service revolver because a prostitute that he was having sex with in his police squad car stole his gun twice and sold it for crack. So the second time she stole it, and he was smoking crack. This is a sergeant in Suffolk County Police Department having sex with prostitutes and smoking crack with them. So he goes and he decides that he's going to go to the drug dealer's house that she sold the gun to, and he's going to go with his boys, his other henchmen, his cops, and they're going to raid the house without a warrant, just like he did with me, and they're going to fucking take the gun back, and because he can't get caught with losing a service weapon to a prostitute. So that's what he did. He went to the drug dealer's house, broke down the door, came in, guns blazing. He did a home invasion. Never got charged with that. Again, swept under the rug. He keeps rising, Chief Burke. He's getting away with murder, literally. Thomas Spoda is allowing him to get away with murder. Thomas Spoda now has full control of Suffolk County. Tom Spoda uses James Burke as the chief of his detectives in the district attorney's office under him. So James Burke becomes his campaign manager, right? He runs for district attorney. Right? Mm-hmm. He wins. Now James Burke, he's a very dirty, corrupt player. Anyone, like I said, anybody that opposes Tom Spoda, James Burke goes out there, frames people. He framed the private investigator in the Marty Tankleff case. And people know about James Burke and they know who he works for. Don't fuck with James Burke. Don't fuck with the mob. They're the mob. So James Burke becomes district attorney, right? I mean, he's a district attorney now. He ran unappointed for like 20 years, I believe. Thomas Spoda. Anyone that ran against him, they got shot down. They didn't win. There's no wins against Thomas Spoda. So the year 2011, going into 2012. 2012 was when County Executive of Suffolk County, Steve Ballone, appoints James Burke now as the new chief of department of Suffolk County, right? He's a police chief of the whole Suffolk County Police Department, 2,600 officers. He comes in, and what? 8 months later, I break into his car and take this bag and expose him. And this is where then it all started. The road to victory it started December 14th, 2012, 8 years ago. The anniversary to the girls in Gilgo was 10 years ago. The girl body that they found that dug up all the other remains of the other girls, her name was Shannon Gilbert. Me and her birthday is the same year, 1986. My birthday's, I'm 6 days older than she is, right? She's October 11th, I'm October 18th. 7 days, a week, 7 days apart. And none of this was a coincidence. This was planned out by God perfectly. December 14, 2012, that's the beginning. That's when Sandy Hook Massacre happened in Connecticut, the day before I broke into the truck. The media wants to come speak to me. They find out about it. A detective in that department, his name's Robert Trotta. He has a connection. He has a task force with the FBI. Trotta knows how evil this man James Burke is. He knows he's been involved with prostitution rings. He knows he's a pervert. He knows he's a sadistic, sinister person. And Rob Trotta said that James Burke one day when he was at a call, Robert Trotta, Burke shows up and he says, Trotta, do you know where I can get some snuff films? Now, snuff films are films, actual footages of females being tortured and murdered, or whatever, boy, girl, kid, adult, being murdered, and they sell these DVDs on the black market, you know, to politicians that they know that they have in their pockets, and they sell them to all over the world to readers. So Suffolk County was producing snuff films, right? So they have Suffolk County. This is why they were so powerful. They had dirt, blackmail on senators, on congressmen, on Hillary, Bill Clinton. Okay, Hillary and Bill Clinton were involved in all this. All right, Hillary Clinton is a pedophile. Hillary Clinton is a murderer. She is a witch. These people are pure evil. These I don't even think they're human. I think they're demons. So I didn't. It was unbeknownst to me at the time that I was going to be connected to all this. So as time starts to go on, I'm like, yo, this is crazy to me. I'm like, I started getting strong visions of me taking them down. So I started speaking it, and I started feeling it every day. I'd wake up. I'm like, I'm taking them down. I'm taking them down. I'm taking them down. God's with me. God's with me. I'm like, I saw it happen. I would feel the adrenaline. I would imagine the day that it would happen. I could feel my adrenaline pumping, and it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, I saw it happen before it happened, and it worked out to the T how I visioned it, even more intense than how I visioned it. This turned into an avalanche. This turned into the biggest butterfly effect in New York history. Like this never in U.S. history has a district attorney been found guilty by his own peers in a conspiracy in a scandal like this. So, you know, we went down in history books, and, you know, so I'm fighting this case that I'm refusing to speak to the FBI the first 8 months. And, you know, my lawyer, she was a good lawyer, Tony Marie Angeli. Check this out. Tony Marie Angeli used to be partners with Bruce Barquette, me and Marty Tanklett's attorney. Unbeknownst to me at that time, Tony Marie, she was appointed to me an 18B attorney by the court. She volunteered to take the case. She hated James Burke. So she was fighting for me at first. She's a pit bull. But then they threatened her. They threatened her career, just like they usually do. You go oppose them, they're going to fucking take your life. They're going to ruin your career. They're going to jail you or maybe kill you. So she gets scared. She doesn't, you know, she's like, Chris, there's been threats later in my life. She told me straight up. I'm like, all right, I understand, right? So she took me 8 months later. Peter Krusco, the assistant chief district attorney of Queens County, is given the case, is appointed my case as special prosecutor. Why wasn't it given to the next county over district attorney's office? Because Spoda had control of this. Spoda handpicked Peter Krusco because he knew he could control him, okay? Peter Krusco, now this is their arrogance preceded their intelligence. Suffolk County is arrogant, just like the rest of the evil people leaders of this world. No matter how much detail and evidence is put in front of their face by the FBI that, listen, we're coming for you, we're gunning for you, you're going down, they don't believe it. They're so invincible, they have that invincible mindset that they have to be in cuffs. Even when they got arrested, I bet you Tom Spoda still thought he was a DA when he got indicted. But so these people, you know, so he gets, so whatever. So Chief Burke, all right, that's where I am. I'm in jail, right? 8 months later, I'm trying to fight my case. I'm trying to you know, I'm trying to beat this case. I'm like, they beat the shit out of me. They forged statements. They threatened to arrest and rape my mother. They forged a second statement. They charged me with a gun. That there was no gun. I'm like, I'm going to trial. I'm like, I'm not fucking sitting down. So then I had two choices: go to trial and blow, and I could face 9 1/3 to 14 years, take 5 years, or cop out to 5 years, or we go talk to the FBI. And I said, I'm like, yo, give me a couple days. I told my lawyer, and she came back to me. I'm like, listen, I'll speak to them, but I'm not making any decisions yet. I just want to see what they want, what exactly I want to know. When I said that, 2 days, it was a day and then 2 days after that, I'm in my tier block in Riverhead Jail. What, we out of time? We still have time or no?
No, we're fine. We're fine. Don't worry. I'm listening
All right.
to you. Yeah.
Okay. So I decided. So 2 days later, after I decided to speak to when I say okay, they wrap me. They call me out of my cell. And they're like, Lord, pack up. They tell me to pack up. So I'm like, where am I going? And they wouldn't tell me where I'm going, the correctional officer. So I'm like, listen, I'm a witness. I'm like, I'm a witness in a federal case against. I'm like, you're gonna tell me where I'm going. I wasn't a witness yet, but I was just saying that to them, like I wanted to know where the hell I was going. So they're like, yo, pack your stuff up or I'll pack it up for you. So I'm like, all right. So I went downstairs. They put me into the changing room. They're like, get into your street clothes. I'm like, all right. So I open the bed. I'm like, what am I going home? I don't know what's going on. I know I hear someone call me from behind, and it's two FBI agents. I turn around, it's two FBI agents. They're two special agents. They open up, they show me their badges. I ask to see identification or whatever. And so I go with them to Brooklyn Federal Court. I meet with AUSA, Taryn Merkel, and Rob Capers. Yeah, Robert Capers. And I didn't trust them. Immediately, I had a bad feeling with the both of them. I thought they were involved in it. I said this to them too. I'm like, you guys are just trying to get the information out of me so you could control the situation. That's what I felt. And it turned out to be true. I said, I'll cooperate with you, but I'm not, I can't have no one know. My family, my mom's in danger. Like my mom was selling the house at the time. So I was waiting for her to sell the house before I cooperated. So they said to me, no, we promised no one's gonna find out. It's gonna be sealed. I said, okay. I decided to cooperate. The next day they lied to me. It was all over the news. It was on the front page. It was on every news channel. Christopher Loeb's taken into by federal custody to cooperate, and 22 subpoenas were issued by the FBI, by the government for the Eastern District to all these police officials. So they do an investigation for the next year, right? I hear nothing. I met with them 5 times. I cooperated with them for maybe 12 hours. They gave me a lineup of the detectives. I pointed out all the detectives, and I don't hear from them for a year. Now, I have to fight my case now. Now the whole world knows I'm cooperating against these cops. They know I'm cooperating with them, and I'm calling the FBI. I have a new lawyer at the time. And he's like, Chris, they're not responding to me. I don't think this is going anywhere. I think you're on your own. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, fuck, man. I'm like, so I called Taryn Merkel's office. I'm like, yo, what did you guys do? You guys sold me to the wolves. I'm like, I knew not to cooperate with you. So I decided to go to trial, to go to my pre-trials. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I gotta beat this case. I'm innocent. I'm beating this case, man. I'm like, God's with me. So they offered, they were like, listen, we'll give you 3.5 years. Take 3.5 years. I'm like, no. So if you don't and you blow trial, you're gonna get 9 1/3 to 14. And I'm like, listen, Your Honor. I'm like, you can't threaten me to with that. That's a threat. That's coercion. I'm like, I have my right is to go to pretrial and for you guys to present the evidence and me have the opportunity to suppress. You can't. And that's what Suffolk County does, and a lot of district attorneys' offices across the nation do. They're not supposed to do that. They coerce people and they threaten them to take pleas because they don't want to waste their taxpayers' money on trials. Trials are very expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. So the majority of the people that are convicted that are charged in Suffolk County cop out to a plea and they're convicted. So I didn't do that in this case. I told the judge, I said, listen, I'm a chief witness in a federal investigation against the Suffolk County Police Chief of the department. My life is in danger, and you're not going to sit here and tell me I need a chance to fight my case. That was Judge man, I forgot. Whatever. The judge was like, all right, Mr. Lopez, said, sit down. We'll keep the offer at 3.5 years. All right, that was a weight off my shoulders. I'm like, if I lose pretrial, I still only get 3.5 years. So, we cross-examined for 3 weeks. I had to sit there and listen to every detective lie. I had to. They were coordinated. They were prepped for this. Chief Burke, he prepped them for this. He gave them all memory. He brought them to Yap headquarters, sat them down in a room, and said, "This is what happened the day at Loeb's arrest. This is what happened. You never got beat. I was never in the room. This is what happened." Mm-hmm. Oh, he said, I came into the room, I checked on him, and I left. So all these officers and detectives lied. But yet, they didn't. I magically, miraculously, from God, this is God, I got the minutes from the proffer agreements. That's the one thing the feds gave me. They gave me their proffer agreements because I had the right to, because I was going to trial. So I got to see every detective's testimony to the FBI agents, to the government.
Mm-hmm.
So me and my lawyer are going through them. Now it's probation officer Rogerio's turn to testify, and then she's being cross-examined. Now, mind you, these detectives have a lot of lies to back because, one, in the beginning, they testified to the grand jury, all right? Those are lies they had to keep up with. Two, they had to lie to the FBI agents, right? Now they're lying to federal agents. That's a minimum of 1 year in jail. And then three, I'm going to trial now. Now you got to lie again at my trial. This detective fucked up. We had the minutes. My lawyer highlights it. He's like, look, I might go up there and get her. He goes up there and he asks her, do you remember the day of this date? She's like, yes. She's like, where were you? He's like, I met with FBI investigators, agents at the Brooklyn building. Okay. Do you remember saying this to this, to this agent, to whatever? She's like, she couldn't answer the question. He's like, answer the question. Yo, I'm getting chills right now. So, Judge Effman's like, you have to answer the question, Miss. And she's like, she answers it, and she fucking gets caught catching her in a lie. My lawyer, he's like, no more questions, Your Honor. And he comes back, he sits down, he's like, she's fucked. She's like, she's got to get a lawyer. We just caught her lying to the FBI agents. That's a minimum of 1 year in jail. I'm like, yes. I go back to my jail. I call Tara Merkel's office. I'm like, look up Rogerio. She lied to you. We caught her lying. I'm like, how does it feel to get beat by Suffolk County? And I hung up the phone. I left a message. I wind up losing my trial still. They suppressed the statements that were taken. They were unconstitutional the way they retrieved the statements. That's the one thing the judge did. I felt like the judge was on my side the whole time. He made it seem that way, but at the end, he didn't do the right thing. He did a quarter of the right thing because he was controlled. So I wind up, I'm like, this can't be happening. I'm going to prison. I'm like, I get sentenced to 3.5 years for a gun that didn't exist. I'm like, oh, this is fucked up, man. I'm being sold to the wolves. Now I'm in prison. I'm getting ready to be sentenced. So I had a lawyer at the time that he kept procrastinating, saying his name was Michael LaRusso, asshole, from Nassau County, all right? This guy gaslighted me for 3 months. He was bought by Spoda. And he had his paralegal come see me. Every time I spoke to him on the phone, he was like, yeah, I'm coming to see you. We still have a case. We're still going to sue them. Yeah, you have a strong case. Da-da-da. When I lost my pre-trials, he said, no, we still have a case. So I'm like, yo, this guy's fucking with me. I'm like 3 months later and nothing, he hasn't come to see me. Yo, this coward. So I called his office. I lied. I said, I got sentenced today. And I'm like, I'm going to be going upstate to prison tomorrow. I'm like, what's going on? So the coward calls my mother's house and says, we're not going to be representing your son. Why have you been calling my mother's house? My mother has nothing to do with this. So he sends a letter saying, we spoke with Manhattan-based attorneys, and there's not, because he didn't break any bones, and we don't see the damages being that. It took you 3 months to fucking talk to fucking attorneys to find out. We made out the whole 3 months you've been telling me we have a strong case. This guy sold me out. So luckily I did that because I really had like another month before I got sentenced. So every day I start pumping letters to attorneys all over Suffolk County, Nassau County. And I start breaking down what happened in my case. And I'm like, I'm trying to get a law. I'm trying to sue them. I'm like, if I can't get them here, I'm like, I have to sue them. I had this shit. I'm not going down like this. So I finally find, Tanya Lopez was a reporter at the time. She did a very good job. She's a big part of the reason why the feds even got involved. And she put a lot of heat on these guys. And her and other two detectives tried to, and Aliva lost his job because of this. They charged him with misdemeanor charges because he went against Burke. So I remember there was this attorney that she interviewed that spoke about my case and how illegal it was. His name was Bruce Barquette. Tanya says his name was Bruce, I think. His name was Bruce. I got to get his last name. I said, all right. The next day, God, divine intervention once again. The other day, I open up the newspaper, and what do I see? Bruce Barquette in small lettering. in a small column. My eyes just catch that. I'm like, holy shit, this is the guy. I call him up. I'm like, yo, this is Chris Law. Da, da, da. He's like, I'm coming to see you. He comes to see me the following day, right? He's like, he tells me that, you know, he has a beef with Suffolk County because of what happened with Marty Tankleff. And he tells me that Chief Burke Spoda had him detained for a traffic violation, put in jail, and booked because he was fighting them for Marty Tankleff. So so Bruce has a beef with him. So Bruce sends his partner the day after that, Amy Marion, with the papers. I signed the papers, like, we're gonna sue him. So they did do the right thing by me in the beginning. You know, they stuck by my side. They did file the lawsuit. When I came home from prison 2 years later, I didn't hear from the FBI. I was sold out, but I knew in my heart, I knew this wasn't over, you know? And I used to tell people in prison, actually, I'm like, watch, when I go home, the FBI is going to contact me again. I could see it. God just blessed me with these visions. Sure enough, a week after I get out of prison, my lawyer calls me up. She's like, you need to come to the office. The FBI wants to meet with you again. I'm like, knew it. So now I don't go to Brooklyn. I go to Central Iceland. I meet with Lara Gatz. She's an AUSA. She's a tough cookie, but she's unethical. She gets the job done when they can't get the job done, is what I'm going to say. So, this is why they reinvestigated the case. They didn't do it because it was the right thing to do. They didn't do it because a junkie got beat up in a precinct. No. They decided to charge him. This is where it gets crazy. Because Loretta Lynch, she was the Attorney General, right, of the United States at one point, right? But she was the Attorney General of the Eastern District. And Bill Clinton met with her at the tarmac, right, on the tarmac. I know the whole world knows about that meeting, all right? Bill Clinton speaks about me to Loretta Lynch. Why is my name coming out of Bill Clinton's mouth? He tells Loretta Lynch, leave that case alone, cease and desist, that's it, that's it, leave it alone. So Loretta Lynch, she leaves it alone. They stop the investigation. I go to prison, I lose a trial, I'm sold out. This is what happened. Loretta Lynch had a personal vendetta now against James Burke. She finds out that her FBI agents, that James Burke was wiretapping them, right? Now she's like, oh yeah, motherfucker? You want to wiretap me at my agents? All right, I got something for you. Bring back Loeb's case up, open up the investigation, we're going to get him. Yo, I'm getting chills right now. So that's what happened. Because she did that, she went against Bill Clinton's authority. She had Burke arrested, indicted. Now they had to follow through with it. That's it. It's over. Loretta Lynch loses her job. She's powered out of the position. But they had to go through with it. Now the Lara Gatz was obligated to fucking bring this case to light and prosecute these people. So that started a whole snowball effect. These detectives come in, they testify against James Burke. They testify against Thomas Spoda, the attorney. So now they testify against Christopher McPartland, Tom Spoda's chief corruption unit. He's the investigator for the Corruption Bureau in the DA's office that's going to prison for corruption. Ironic, right? So yeah, they locked it. You know, James Burke went to prison. I was in prison at the same time with Burke. I was in one federal building and he was in another federal building. The day he got sentenced, this was historical. You know, I'm waiting in the jail cell. I don't know who's out in the courtroom. All I know is that it's a huge freaking day, that the courtroom is packed out. There's 2 courtrooms packed out to the gills for the sentencing day. Mm-hmm. I decided to make a victim impact statement, a very powerful victim impact statement. They open the door, I come to the jail cell. You know, Lara Gatz walks me, the court officer walks me through, the marshal walks me through, and the whole courtroom is fucking dead silent, and it's packed out. Every AUSA from the Eastern District is filled up the first pews. This is a big moment. The Suffolk County Police Chief is about to be sentenced to prison. So I speak to Burke. I give my impact statement to him. You know, we're staring at each other face to face. He's got his hands together, you know, in front of his face.
Yo, really like me pizza.
And he wanted to murder me. So he was looking at me like, I'm gonna kill you, like you're dead. And I'm like, how does it feel? I'm like, how does it feel? I'm like, whoever thought we'd make it to this day, James Burke? I said, said, you once thought you were invincible. You know, you told me that my voice didn't matter, that I was nothing, that I was a heroin addict. You told me no one would believe me. You said my mother would be arrested and raped. You said I would be killed with a hot shot of heroin, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, you come to this courtroom today asking for leniency from this judge to pardon you because your mother's ill and dying of cancer. I said, where was the thought of my mother when you had me chained to the fucking floor and threatened to have her arrested and raped? I said, I have no mercy for you. I have no mercy for the things you've done. And not only, I'm like, my crimes affected a few people and myself mostly. Your crime affected the fabric of society in a whole, and the whole Suffolk County Police Department. You brought such a negative light on these officers, good officers, some of them, you know, but you know, even the good ones are looked at badly because of you. So yeah, that was a huge day, man. That's actually going to be in the movie that's coming out. That moment's going to be in the movie that they got coming out about the case. So, yeah, I got a book coming out. So, you know, because of that, Thomas Foden now, 2 years after that, he got indicted. I sat at his trial for 3 weeks last December. I went through a lot of scary situations leading up to that point. They tried to kill me. They chased me down. They had a dog eat my leg. They pulled their guns out on me. They beat the shit out of me. They tried giving me fucking a hot shot of heroin multiple times. They set drug dealers at me on the street. They tried to entrap me and make me believe that my ex-girlfriend wanted me murdered, so I would pay them to have her murdered. Luckily, that never happened because I caught on to it. But yeah, they tried ruthlessly and tirelessly to take me down. And by God's grace, I'm alive, and by God's grace, I'm still here. My job is not done. So that's where I get my passion to help out other people. I know the corruption inside the police department and the judicial system. I see how they operate. God is coming. He is here. There's going to be a revolution of righteousness. I do believe that Donald Trump was chosen by God. He was anointed by God to expose all these pedophiles across the globe. Now, let's just pray and come together. Now, if I'm wrong about this, I'm not wrong about this. This is going to happen. Arrests are being made all over the world right now. The Vatican was blacked out for a few days. But a lot of Americans don't know about that because the media is controlled by NATO. Those are MI6 operatives, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS. They're all controlled by the NATO alliances, by Iran, by Russia, by Ukraine, by China. They're all in the pockets. Those aren't Americans that are giving you the news on TV, on CNN, on MSNBC. Those are people hired by NATO to discredit Trump because he's going to expose them for what they really are. And they know their time is coming. Mm-hmm. They know they're all going down. Look at Bush Sr. and John McCain's funeral. Tell your followers to look that video clip up on YouTube. YouTube is an Illuminati-controlled organization, by the way. I got banned from YouTube for speaking about that. And now Facebook. They're all controlled by China. All the big tech companies are controlled by China. They're all bought. Listen, our country has not been the United States of America since 1871. We have not been an independent country since 1871. And most Americans are like, what is he talking about? What is this kid talking about? What's this guy talking about? And that's why I tell people, do your research. You're being lied to. We've been sold out for over 100 years. Ulysses S. Grant was our last president of the United States. He was the 18th president of the United States of America. When he left office, we sold ourselves. We were sold out to London. London bought America in 1871. England, NATO alliances have been implementing New World Order globally at the beginning of 1871. And you know how they were doing this? Propaganda. Hitler did it with Auschwitz. He did it with his own people. They mind control. MK Ultra, CIA. These are all CIA. This is all. That's all going to be exposed. Trump is declassifying it. It's going to come out. What else? So yeah, that was the last time the United States was the United States. That's where you see the gold fringe around the flag. Go back before 1871. Tell me if that gold fringe is around that flag. It's not, people. That gold fringe means London. Those black suits that the judges wear in court, that's not American. That's British. We're bought by London, England, Britain. We're in control. The Bar Association stands for Britain. Britain, Britain. And these people, you know what? It's not their fault. It's not the people's fault. You know, we've been conditioned to believe this. You know, some people just are not meant to get the kingdom of heaven. They're not given the keys. They're not given this enlightenment, this gift. You know, but there are sheepdogs in this world. There are people like me that are trying to awaken the other sheep. They're trying to bring them to light. They're trying to save them. We're standing up, but people are not listening. They don't want to listen to the truth. They fear, but they don't understand. And that's the problem right now. America used to be the strongest, most powerful, independent country in the world. This is God's land. This is God's country. They sought asylum, other countries, to come here because God said, go to this land. This is my land. We're the heart of the world. We're supposed to be the righteous people of the world, right? We're supposed to set the example for the rest of the world. Yeah. We've been sold out from the inside. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he makes me disgust. He's a disgusting individual. I saw him speak. He's a fucking actor. He's from Austria. What is he doing being a governor from California? He's not a governor no more. But how dare you go in front of the camera and tell our people that our president was the worst president in the United States of America? You fucking liar. I hope you get charged with treason and you're executed with the rest of them, with Pelosi, with the Obamas, with the Clintons, with the Bushes, with Jimmy Carter, with all of them, with the Pope Francis. Pope Francis is a pedophile. I don't care who says anything. Oh, how dare you talk about the church like that? The Vatican is the evil heart engine of this world. They're demonic. The Catholic Church has been being charged, these priests, these bishops, of raping and killing little children and drinking their blood. This is not made up myth. This is facts. So people are just so, they're blind. There's a spiritual war taking place right in front of us. I just fortunately, and at times unfortunately, but not anymore, was blessed and cursed at the same time to see all this. It's not a curse to me no more. It's a blessing. God, I had to go through everything I've been through to be awakened. I've seen these spirits. I've seen these demons. I've been under possession. I've witnessed other people come into possession. I've seen what they look like. There are lieutenants in the spiritual world that work for Satan. Hell is real. Heaven is real. The spirit world happened before the physical world. Everything that happens in the physical world has already taken place in the spiritual world. That's why I get visions. That's why believers get visions, because God wants them to see. That's why the prophecies inside the Bible are all real, because those same people like me, prophets, were prophecy in the name of Jesus, in the name of God. They saw Jesus coming 100 years before he came. He came. They saw Moses coming before he came. He came. Moses, just like me and a lot of other Christians, they were not qualified to lead people, right? They were the underdog, right? They were drug addicts or bottom people. You know, Moses used to question himself all the time. God, I'm not fit for this. But he kept his faith. No matter how scared Moses was, it took him 40 years to lead the people to the promised land. And you know how much persecution he went through? People doubted him. They wanted to kill him. They put armies against him. And what did God do? He split the sea in half, and he told him to walk through it. And because Moses, no matter how Moses, I believe he was the prophet that had a stuttering. He couldn't speak. And God chose him. He's like, that's where he had he walked with a cane. You know, it was very hard for Moses to walk. And God used him, and he closed the sea on Baal. What was it, King Ahab or King? It was Baal. You know why? Because God was sick and tired. They were same thing they're doing today. They were sacrificing children, right, to these idols, these demons, right? They were drinking their blood to give them powers, right, to give them visions, to give them all these things. this is what's happening to, this is what has happened to our world, right? All our leaders of our globe are sacrificing children. They're sacrificing them to Baal. There's a Jezebel spirit in the world that's controlling these people, that's possessing Pelosi, that's possessing Biden. When I see Biden, I see a demon. When I see Pelosi, I see a demon. I don't see a human. These are very, very evil people. You know, the Satan's army is strong. It is real. It's here. You know, there's a war going on. Now it's spilling into the physical. So, you know, God was sick with the evil and the blood of the children. He put his foot down, Lord. He came with a revolution of righteousness, and he closed the sea on Baal. He closed the sea on the king, that because they were sacrificing, he denied God. He blasphemed God. And that's what's happening right now. The same thing, but this is even bigger than that time. This is huge. The entire world has been under the curse of Satan and his army. The entire world. They're getting rid of Bibles in Scotland. Christians will be persecuted and they will be murdered for speaking out for Christ. It says it in the Bible. It's happening right now. They're trying to do away with Christianity. That's why I tell people, stand up. Don't wait for God to come in and wait for him to make the move. We are the right hand of God. We are his weapon. We are his force. We're the ones to come together and fight the enemy. That's how we defeat the enemy. We come together and we pray and we attack Satan and his army on the offense. We speak out publicly about Jesus Christ. We speak out publicly about the gospel. We praise his name in the streets. We put hands on people's heads and deliver them from the arms of the enemy. This is what we do. This is what we do. This is God's children. These are true warriors and soldiers of God, and I will die for that. I will die for God's children. I will die for the blood of his children. I will give my life. I will give it 1,000 times over, but I will not sit down for the fucking enemy. I will not sit down to Biden. I will not sit down to Pelosi. I will not, because I know the truth. I know what they're about. I know the children that have lost their life. Over 900,000 children go missing in the United States, and only not even a quarter of them are found. You know who those children go to? Hillary Clinton, Obama, Biden, Pizzagate scandal. Look it up, people. WikiLeaks. That shit's real. This lady has eaten the faces of babies. They sacrifice in the name of Baal, in the name of Malak. Jay-Z, Beyonce knows. They're all a part of the Illuminati. This is real. This is not made up. All right. One day I was watching Cartoon Network. I never watched Cartoon Network. Another vision I got. Scrolling through the channels. I stop at Cartoon Network because I notice a lake, right? And it's a cartoon, and I see these symbols in the rocks. And I know I've seen these symbols before, right? And I'm like, those are demonic seals. I've read the Recipe of Solomon, the book Recipe of Solomon. I saw all the seals that King Solomon used to trap these demons. And these fucking people that run this world, it's right in front of our eyes. The cartoon where humans turning into reptilians, right? And going into this lake and standing in front of the stones, the seals. I said, holy shit, man. They're so blatant about it now. It's right in front of our face. Guess what? The string goes black, right? And in white lettering, just like this, it says, thanks to the like of people like Beyonce, of Jay-Z and Beyonce Knowles, all you have to do now is throw up a triangle and you're a part of the Illuminati. Praise Malak. And a picture of Malak with the goat, with the hermaphrodite demon with the goat head and the titties and the horse's feet in the Indian style. They showed a picture of that, and the screen went back to normal, went back to the cartoon. I said, yo, I can't believe I just saw that just now. I'm like, so I called people, I Googled it, I tried to research it, I could not find it. I wish I had a recording at the time. I did not record it. I didn't know it was going to happen. It happened so fast. So, you know, people, this is really going on, man. This is a spiritual war. There's nothing, everything in that Bible is literal. I tell people that's a weapon against the enemy. That's what Jesus used in the wilderness. And that's what we need to use, that book, because if we don't use this, the world's going to be ran over by artificial intelligence. The human race is not going to be no more if we don't stand up. This is real.
That's true. That's very true. I can tell you. Totally agree. I live in Hollywood.
Yeah, and so I'm sure you see it. You see.
I see and I feel it, and I'm awakened like you know, and I see beyond the veil, and you know, they don't like me because they smell me. So
Yeah.
yeah, they tried to kill me several times. They give it so much pressure. You have no idea.
Yeah, and I commend you for that because you know the truth. You know where you're going. We're going to heaven. You know, as long as we do our part in this world, we're all going to heaven. But these people are going to go to hell, Diana.
I know, but you know, we cannot awake people, and you need to know that we cannot do that. They need to awake by themselves. There's nothing we can do, you know.
I mean, yeah, well, I'm gonna, you know what, but we gotta keep speaking out, no matter how,
Yeah.
you know what Satan likes to do to us. This is what I dealt with for a long time. He likes to put shame on you, make you feel stupid about your God, make you feel stupid about Jesus Christ. And I deal with it. When I would speak out and praise Jesus, sometimes I would get ridiculed by people that I know. That's the devil. I don't do that no more. I
Yeah.
just lost a couple friends because of it. You know, they like, Chris, you're losing your credibility. I said, how dare you say I'm losing my credibility because I'm speaking out about God and my visions? You know
Yeah.
what? Go fuck yourself. And these are two people that I'm doing my TV show with. And I said to them, I said, how are you going to do a show about corruption when you guys are backing the people that are corrupt? I said, yo, you know what? Don't talk to me no more. Don't communicate with me no more. I've tried to waken you up. I said, either you're mentally retarded or you're their enemy and you're evil, or you're just that asleep and you do not want it. But that's the three. It's either you're mentally retarded, excuse me, but you know, it's the truth, or you're just you're the devil. You're a part of the devil's army, and you're evil, and you like to drink babies and rape children, and you should be crucified for it. Or you're just asleep and you're scared of what you do not understand. But it once,
Fear is the problem. Fear, they're afraid. A lot of fear.
yes,
People, especially with COVID-19, makes things even just more complicated.
mm.
Yeah, with the COVID-19, because their fear, you know, the demon is feeds from fear, you know, and you know that,
Yeah.
right? If you don't have fear, the demon is not coming close to you. If you
Yeah,
stay
amen.
positive, yeah, the demon stays away from you because they're afraid of you. So that's
Yep,
how it works. But we will
yep, you're
continue
right.
to talk. Yeah, we will continue to talk to try to wake them up and do our best to save the world. That's our mission.
Amen.
Yeah, we're the warriors sent by God, and God lives in us, and we are speaking on His behalf. That's how
If
it
the
is.
spirit, yeah, if the spirit of God lives in us, the evil one cannot touch us.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
people, but that's our job as Christian brothers and sisters. We need to wake people up and and tell them, show them, there's nothing to be afraid of. The
Exactly.
enemy cannot touch you. God is with you. Even if you die, there's worse things than death, and that's going to hell. I'm not going. You're not going. I'm not, and I'm going to continue to fight until my dying day, until I'm taken back to heaven.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you so
All right, so let's.
much.
I
Bye.
want to get this video out there as much as we can. I want people to get comfortable, and I want them to pray with us. And we need to start waking people up fast, because if we don't do it right now, if Biden, God forbid, I don't think it's going to happen, but if he were to go into office, the human race is going to be annihilated, and that we cannot let that happen.
Yeah.
So we got to pray, intercede on the behalf of the lost children, the lost sheep, bring them back into God's herd, and expose the true facts about the vaccine, how it was created by China and the United Nations, how it's biological warfare. There have not been 3 million Americans that died from COVID. There's been 300,000 people that died from COVID, and it's not a virus. It's biological warfare.
Yeah.
They were murdered by foreign countries, by the New World Order elites, all right? They thought they were going to come in and fucking kill our people and implement communism and take over the world with one religion, Satan. They're now building satanic churches, and they're banning Christianity in countries because they say it's hatred. Are you fucking at what? Wake up, people! Wake up! If we don't do something right now and stand up, we're gonna lose. We're going to hell in a hole. All of us are going to hell. All I can say to the brothers and sisters of this world is pray, ask God to give you a sign, but you have to pray in the name of Jesus Christ, or else it will not work. He is the true Savior. He is the true key to salvation. You cannot get to the Father but through the Son, and that is the one true God, the Alpha, the Omega. That's God. That's Jesus Christ. God sent him. I don't know the mystery to that. In the spiritual mind, I know the mystery to that. But in the human mind, I don't know why God did it the way he did it, but that's the way he did it. He sent Jesus down to die for everyone's sins. And that's how I feel as my point, as my purpose in this world. I feel that same exact way. I was sent here to die for everybody. And that's how I'm going to go out, by dying for everybody. I want to be just like Jesus. I want to have a mind like Jesus. I want to love like Jesus. I want to be able to I'm a sinful person. I still sin. I'm cursing, but I'm just so fed up with the life that I live. But they say, well, if Jesus was to be around during our time, he would talk like we talk, so he could collect as many souls as he can. I'm talking, God speaking through me, and he's talking to you like you would speak to an ordinary person of this day. But I'm trying, and I'm collecting souls, and I'm trying to get people. I'm a gangster of God. People want to be gangster. They want to gangbang. They want to pull out guns. They want to deal drugs. That is not gangster. Going out there on the offense and fighting for God's army, that's gangster. Supporting your family and raising your children into a positive world and a righteous world, that's gangster. Being able to stand firm in the face of that, of adversity, that's gangster. Standing up for your morals and your beliefs, that's gangster. If you stand for nothing, you will fall for everything. That's gangster. All right? My gun that I use is my prayer, my word, the gospel. That's my power, and it works every time. People fear me when I walk to the room. Why? It's not me. It's God behind me. They see the aura. They see the angels behind me. They see his army behind me. And no one is going to stop me. Satan is done. His army is done. The killings are going to be done. They're done. His time is done. He's numbered. His days are numbered. It's over. It's over for the devil. There's nothing that's going to stand in between that. There's nothing. The only thing that's going to happen is people are going to go to hell because they're not listening to people like you and me. They're denying us. They deny us. They're denying their Father in heaven. And everyone that speaks out about Donald Trump, the anointed one, are going to hell. They're going to burn in hell. They might get able to live through this life. They might be blessed with riches in this life, but I tell you right now, they are not taking their riches with them. They are not taking their fancy cars with them. They are not taking little boys and girls to rape with them. They are going to burn. Their skin is going to melt from their bones. It's going to be put back on again. It's going to melt again. It's going to be put back on. It's going to melt again. I've seen it. God's revealed this to me. I'm not going to that fiery pit. I am not. She showed me heaven, and that's where I want to go. I want to end up in heaven for eternity. That's where I'm going. So I want to continue to fight and speak out no matter what people say. I'm going to start talking about my visions more now because the presence of God is so strong in me right now. And look at me on TikTok right now. I'm going viral on TikTok. So many good Christian soldiers out there that are contacting me on TikTok. They love it. They're eating it up. It's not me. It's God. So I just made 4 videos, 4 short clips of Cindy Jacobs in the background. This was a prophecy revealed to me 3 years ago. That's why it's very important to me, this video. It's Cindy Jacobs, the voice of God, the Philippines, about the Philippines. All right? Make sure you watch that tonight.
Yeah.
All right?
Thank you so much for being. Right. It's amazing. You're my brother in light. So continue what you're doing. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to have you live again. And we are winning. We're definitely winning, and everything is going our way. So everything is going to be fine. Just people need to get rid of the fear and everything, and believe in themselves, and everything is going to be fine.
Amen. Hallelujah. All right. God bless. Good night.
God bless. Bye.
Bye-bye.